Hi all, welcome back to my channel. I posted a video on Sunday, June 22nd, about heroic church members who saved their congregation of over 150 members by taking down a crazed gunman outside of their church during Sunday service. But it didn't get too many views because YouTube doesn't like that I don't sugarcoat my titles and everything I say on my channel. So they don't push my videos out, limiting what my viewers get to watch. Because you, aren't notified when I post a new video. So in an effort to prevent that from happening in the future, I'd like to ask that if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you already have, thank you. And please make sure you hit the notification bell too, so you're notified when I post a new video. I don't usually start videos out this way, but I don't think YouTube should be choosing what they push out to our viewers to watch. We're all adults here, and you and I should be given all the choices so we can decide for ourselves what we want to watch. Thank you, and on to the story. I posted a video about the terrifying morning a shooter tried to get into Crosspointe Community Church in Wayne, Michigan, and how police explained that members of the church's congregation took him down before he could get inside, preventing a mass shooting. But at the time of that video, we didn't have a whole lot of information to go on, other than that the suspect was driving erratically in the church parking lot, which got the attention of someone arriving for the service, and when he got out of his vehicle and began firing at the church, the man arriving for the service ran him over with his truck. Then police said other church members engaged the suspect and ended his life. Only one of the church members was shot in the leg. He was in the church service with his family, his wife, his children, and his grandchildren. And when the commotion started outside, he was one of the heroes who ran to stop the danger headed for his family and all the others inside. His name is Ron Amon, and he was holding his grandson during the service. But he said when he heard there was danger, he handed his grandson to his wife and knew what he had to do. Because he was part of the safety team for their church, and he was well trained, and he knew that if they didn't stop the gunman before he got inside, he could injure or end the lives of all of them. He was one of the brave members of the safety team that morning who raced toward the sound of gunfire and lived to describe what it was like to not only train to protect his family and congregation, but to actually have to step up and do it. The stories you are about to hear about what it was like for those heroes that morning are compelling, especially when Ron describes how he saw the shooter down on the ground after he was hit by the truck. Then he watched in horror as he swung his weapon behind his back and began randomly firing into the building, trying to hit whatever he could.
Well, tonight we are hearing from the man who stopped a gunman at a church in Wayne.
Yes, the terrifying incident playing out Sunday morning. Fox News' Jessica Dupneck spoke to the man who effectively really ended this threat, and she's joining us live. But, you know, he put his own life in danger to do this, Jessica.
He sure did. He told me at one point there were literally bullets whizzing past him inside the church. Now, about 10 years ago, the people here at Crosspointe Community Church in Wayne, they decided to develop a security team. Now, some of them are armed, including Jay Trombley, the man who stopped that threat. They're highly trained, too, from local law enforcement to people around the country. So they were prepared for this kind of thing. Now, Jay, very humble guy. He doesn't want credit. He says this was definitely a team effort to save hundreds of lives. You're not going to let me call you a hero, are you?
No, we did what we were called to do.
A story of good and evil played out on the lawn of Crosspointe Community Church in Wayne. Inside, more children than usual, about 80 last Sunday, running with their parents for their lives, seen on the church's live stream. Was there a point in time where you're like, this might be it for me?
Yeah, there was when I looked down the barrel, there was a quick thought that yeah.
Jay Trombley says bullets were whizzing by him.
We had lots of tables set up. We were having snacks and stuff in the tablecloths. You could see the bullet holes through the tablecloths.
The gunman, dressed in tactical gear, armed with what sounded like a modified automatic rifle, was run down on purpose by a churchgoer late for the service that morning.
The fact that the man who hit him with the pickup was late to church, decided to make his own breakfast instead of buying breakfast on the way to church.
We're told the gunman, Brian Browning, was hurt, but still firing, hitting a security team member in the leg, taking aim at another, hiding behind an AC unit. That's when Trombley took his shot, ending the madness.
There's been a few moments when I've actually had to think of him as a person, when they talk about his mom and his dad, and know that he was their son, and I have a son, and I have kids.
Investigators say Browning was having a mental health episode. His social media spells out his radicalized views on religion, echoed by his conversations with the church's pastor, in which he likened himself to a prophet. Browning even took social media shots directly at Crosspointe Community Church weeks before actually opening fire.
This could have been extremely bad. We think that maybe he thought we were having an outdoor service and he was coming to the front yard.
Trombley said God's hands were on them that day.
We go on. We cannot let the devil stop us from spreading our word.
You heard Jay in the story there mention having an outdoor service. Well, the week before Father's Day, that's exactly what they did. Dozens of people right on the front lawn, and that would have been in the shooter's path. Reporting live in Wayne, Jessica Dupnack on The Edge.
Wow, that's such a close call. And what about that shooter or the suspected shooter in this case, though? What do we know about him? You said radicalized, also a mental health episode. What do we know there?
Yeah, police definitely pointing in the direction of mental health, but it doesn't take much of a social media search to see that it definitely looks like he was radicalized. Almost all of his posts were very violent, sort of radicalized, and it was clear that it started to escalate in the weeks leading up to this shooting. As I said in the story, even posting about the church, taking shots at them. So there was definitely some premeditation here.
Wow. Well, luckily, everyone ended up okay, but it could have been a lot worse. And Jessica, thank you for the update there.
Now to our other top story this afternoon, a shooting at a Wayne County church. Employees at Crosspointe Community Church step in before the attack turns deadly, potentially saving dozens of lives. Today, we are learning more about the shooting suspect, Brian Browning. We're going to bring in Pam Osborne now, who's doing a little bit more research on the suspect and the history there at the church.
Yeah, we know, Karen, that he had actually been to Crosspointe Church a few times over the past year. And we learned today he had even sought counsel with the lead pastor there. We spoke to him today, and he's still trying to work out what happened and why.
I had very mixed feelings. I certainly was trying to figure out why he did this. Going through every word that was said that I could remember, every interaction that I had with him, to find out if it was motivated at a particular person, myself, or anyone at the church. And I can't come up with an answer specifically.
Pastor Bob Kelly sharing his earlier interactions with alleged gunman Brian Browning. Today we learned his mother attended the church. Pastor Kelly first met Browning in October of last year.
I did not know him very well. When she got baptized, that was my first time meeting him. He came up to me after and just introduced himself.
He says Browning wanted to meet, so they did. Pastor Kelly says he had questions about the Bible and even challenged him on some of the scripture. He also made some interesting remarks.
He said he was a prophet. He said he heard from God, all of those things, and tried to demonstrate how he was a prophet by telling me something that he didn't think that he should know other than God telling him.
Pastor Kelly says he encouraged him to be a part of a congregation. It was February of this year when he saw Browning again. He says Browning told him there was something about that service that touched him. He says Browning asked for help with some things, but didn't specify what.
I don't know exactly what it was because he didn't say. Didn't say it was mental health. He didn't say it was an issue that he had or any of that. He just said, could you help me with some things? And I said, sure.
The two were unable to connect after that conversation. The next time Browning would show show up would be Sunday, June 22nd. Investigators say he was wearing a tactical vest with an AR-15 style rifle, a handgun, and lots of ammo. Police say if it hadn't been for the actions of a churchgoer who hit him with their vehicle and church security who shot and killed him in the parking lot, many lives would have been lost.
He gave no indication that he had any animosity toward the church, toward me in our meeting. I know he was hearing, and I'm just going to say it, from demons, not from God, telling him to do some things, and that's the reason that we have the outcome that we have.
Investigators say they believe the 31-year-old was suffering from a mental health crisis. Police tell me they're still in the process of conducting interviews with people who knew Browning. I do want to mention we did go by his Romulus home this afternoon. There were lots of cars in the driveway, some people standing outside, but they indicated that they were not interested in speaking with us, Karen.
Here are the stories of two of the heroes who put their lives at risk to save so many lives that terrifying morning. Thank God for all the heroes at that service. And thank you so very much for watching.
How long have you been a part of this church, and tell me about your involvement with Crosspointe Church?
Well, I grew up in the church, so I've been there since the 60s, 58 years. So my family has been a part of it the whole time, and so we just have continued to go there, and I'm on the elder board and the safety team there.
What is it like, I guess, being a part of that church? What is the church like? What's the community like?
Well, I consider that my family, church family, and when things happen, and usually not this catastrophic or this big, people come together and take care of other members like family, and so it's neat to see how people react to family members, or as family members.
So what, I guess, take me through kind of Sunday. Was a normal church morning, right?
This Sunday?
This past Sunday, yeah.
It was a normal church Sunday. It was a little different in that it's summertime. We put some programs on hold during the summertime because people are on vacations, and that. The week prior, all week, was what we call Vacation Bible School, where all the kids come in, and it's usually pretty active, and they teach them songs and then Bible stories, obviously, and do crafts and everything. So this Sunday morning, too, was a little different, only in that we show what the kids and leaders from the VBS, Vacation Bible School, had learned the week before that. So they were through the whole beginning of the service, they were up on the platform teaching us, or showing us what they had learned.
And so what happened? It was around just after 11 o'clock, right? It was during the service that this incident happened?
Yes, they were just starting to come down off of the platform, and we heard what I heard. Some people didn't even hear it, but I heard a popping, a pop, 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 pop noise that I couldn't quite identify. It stopped. I heard it again, and probably within a few seconds after that, somebody came running in the back of the sanctuary and said, "There's a shooter out there."
What was going through your mind when you heard that?
Not much. I just knew I had to react. That's my duty as being part of the safety team, was to go to the situation and see what is happening, and my job is to protect my family, not just my personal family or DNA family, but my church family. So I knew that that's what I needed to do.
And so what happened? Where did you go out? Was there a lobby there? What happened next?
Yes,
I guess.
Yeah, I ran out of the sanctuary as people were leaving the one way to get out of what they thought was harm's way. They were leaving that way. I was going to where the call came, or the voice that said there's a shooter. There's a lobby there with a glass wall which faces the main road, and that's where I ran into the lobby to assess the situation.
And what happened next? What did you see? What happened?
What I saw was obviously people scattering. I saw a man in tactical gear sitting on the grass just outside this glass wall. And he had an automatic rifle and was sitting there facing outward. I ran across, there's a hall and a brick wall. So my training said take cover but still engage. So I was running towards that hallway, keeping my eye on him, and just before I got into the hallway, he turned around while he was sitting down, that I can remember, and he just started spraying bullets into the lobby, went through the glass, shattered it, and then that's when it caught my leg and kind of spun me around. So my lower half was in the hallway, but I was on the ground, and then I realized that I had been shot because I tried to get up or move, and I couldn't, my leg wouldn't take any support. So.
And what was, I mean, I know you've trained for this, but probably never been in a situation like this. What was going through your mind when you realized that you had been shot?
Well, at that point, the threat still was not taken care of. So I laid there. I had already drawn my gun. As I'm running through, I drew my gun to be prepared, and I wanted to make sure I knew the target and what, the next step was. So I was prepared with my gun while I'm laying there to, if he came inside, then I would have engaged the shooter, and I would have, used my weapon on him. But before that happened, one of the other team members had, or maybe a couple, I don't know. I just know there were lots of shots and he was down.
So you were sitting there as you fell to the ground injured, you had your gun drawn,
Yes.
ready for him to come in?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What was it? I mean, I know, this is something you've trained for, and, obviously you've known this is something that's a possibility, I guess, but for it to actually happen, did you ever think it was even, as you were training for it, what did you?
Yeah. We've done lots of training over the, I'm guessing, 10 years of training. Some of it was with the USCCA most recently. SRST has come in. It's an organization out in California that has come in and done some situational training with us. So you want to be prepared for multiple situations rather than try to make decisions at that time. So we had, we had done other trainings. We had been to the range multiple times. We've done qualifying, and so we had tried to do as much training and stay proficient at those things. So,
but it's still something you probably had never thought.
Well, you never think you're going to go through that. You want to be prepared for something that's never going to happen. I guess is kind of the way to sum it up. Is what goes through your mind is, I will do this, but I'm never going to need it.
At what point, if at any point during this, like it kind of sunk in, like that this is like happening right now?
I guess probably after I came through and was shot, then I knew we're in an active situation.
And so I guess, what was it like in the moments after? Like people were tending to you, obviously. You were taking an ambulance, I think, right? Or
yes.
What
was, there were people calling the police. There were several people that were on the phone with 911. Obviously, everybody's trying, once the shooter is down, everybody's trying to assess the whole damage, take care of the injured. That I knew of, I was the only one injured. We had a young man come back in, and once he realized what had happened, that I was injured and down, he had, that I'm aware of, he had told me he had military training, and so he knew what to do with putting a tourniquet on. He found a band, put a tourniquet on, and then they immediately started packing stuff into my wound so that it would, I wouldn't bleed out until the police got there. And then between, I'm not sure, the police or the EMT, they got another tourniquet on it, put it on, and started packing it with actual wound packing.
And what were the extent of your injuries? I know you had a surgery right after, right? I mean,
yeah, that was the extent of my injury. All I could tell, because I was actually laying on the wound, and I didn't have much strength in my leg, so I just tried to look and see, and all I could tell is the bullet had gone in right here. I could see that the bone wasn't straight anymore, so I knew it had done some damage.
Yeah.
But obviously at that point I didn't know. I just knew I took a bullet. So
it broke your bone? I think.
Yeah, it shattered. Well, yes, in talking to the surgeon, and more so after the surgery, it shattered the bone more than he had originally thought. So he had to kind of rebuild it and then put in a steel rod, which he said he went up a little farther, so it goes all the way down, and then they put screws in at the top and the bottom to hold it in place.
And so I know I saw that some church members put together a GoFundMe to help you out too, right? And
that's what I understand. Yes.
And you're going to be out of work for some time, I assume?
Well, they've told me, and we obviously have follow-up appointments, but they told me I think the minimum is 2 to 3 months of non-weight bearing, and then after that, I think it's a couple more months of limited and rehab, physical rehab, and then the surgeon told me it could be up to a year before it's back to normal.
When did you decide, why did you decide, I guess, to join this security or safety team? When did that kind of option come out there, and when did it, when did you decide that maybe I should be trained on this?
Yeah. Well, I decided years ago in this world of ours that if I'm going to protect my family, I need to be able to protect my family. So that's when I moved forward into at least training and, getting a gun and keeping it on me, but wanting to do it all right and know how to use it, because a loaded gun in the wrong hands can be just as dangerous or can be dangerous. So I knew I needed training to be able to use it and not, be on the other side of it. So when we formed this team, I just knew it was my calling to protect my family and my church family. I feel that that's my calling. So.
And you did a training, you said 3 days before this, right? On Thursday?
Well, that was just an additional one, yeah. I mean, you do ongoing. So it was Thursday of the week before, so last Thursday, they put on a program out at Peacekeepers, and USCCA did a Protecting Your House of Worship training course. And they do multiple training. As a member, there's all kinds of information available to you as part of training and that you can take advantage of.
And having gone through the training of it and then having lived through it, how much did that training help? How similar was, how prepared were you, do you think, in those moments, and your team in those moments?
Yeah, it's amazing now that we were extremely well prepared. Being a person of faith and having a relationship with God, I believe He orchestrated all of the preparations and prepared us exactly for what we encountered. This man was clearly ready to do major harm, and there's just no way there wouldn't be more casualties with somebody that had this much ammunition and guns available or on him. So.
And what goes through your mind knowing that you and your team prevented? I mean, your family was there, other kids were there. You prevented any more casualties, any more injuries?
Yes, I'm proud of our whole team and how we work together. I'm no hero. I just did what I was trained to do and supposed to do, and felt was my calling to do. You'll laugh, but I keep a calendar, and I'm older than Google calendars, so I keep a paper calendar of any activities that come up, And I write on every month. This year, I started out at the beginning of the year, and one of the things that I daily ask myself is, what can I do to add value to others today, and what can I do to serve others today? And so it's just part of my daily thought process, and so that went into it.
And something that struck me when Jay talked to the reporter Randy on Monday was that he said, going through all the training, he always had that question in the back of his mind that if he heard that noise, would he run to it or run away from it?
Mm-hmm.
When you heard that noise?
In my mind, there was never a question, and I've had to prepare my family for that, much to their dismay. But if something bad is happening, I'm going to try to protect those that can't be otherwise protected. So I have told them that this is who but they know that's who I am too. So they've somewhat accepted that fact.
And I guess also, how are your nieces and nephews doing after, experiencing what they experienced?
Yeah, we're all...
Or not, excuse me, your grandchildren and your...
Yeah, we're still processing all of that, and I'm concerned for them and want to make sure that, again, I have always taken on that responsibility to protect my family, not just physically or, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And so I want to make sure they're all taken care of. And so we're still working through that. I've had events happen over my life that I know affect you mentally. And I just think that God has given me that over the years to be prepared for this one, and so I don't feel any, I don't know what to say. I need to take care of my family rather than worry about myself, and so I want to make sure that they're all okay. But we've worked through things, and we'll continue. We're a close family, so we will continue to work through that.
I guess last question, you did kind of touch on this too, but how much has the church family kind of come together through all this, and how much has that support meant to you?
Yeah, they have. It's just like I said in the beginning, that it is a family. We are a church family. They had a meeting last night to kind of regroup and explain things, because what a lot of people just know is there's a shooter and everybody ran, and there were hundreds of police there. So for most of the people, that's all they knew. And so they kind of wanted to share with people where everybody was at, and certainly mentally and physically and all of that. So they did have a group meeting. Another church came together and said, we want to host this, and another church came and said, we'll provide a meal for you. And so it was a time of healing and understanding and that for our church body. So that's the plan going forward, is that we'll all, and I guess that's my message. I know a lot of people just know I was the one injured and are worried about me, but I'm okay. Physically, I'll heal from this, and it's going to slow me down a little bit, but otherwise, I'm okay.
Is there anything else I haven't asked? Anything else you wanted to share or wanted to say?
No, just God is still good, and I still trust Him. He protected us. If you think about what could have happened versus what happened, there's just no way that He couldn't have been there protecting 180 people or whatever the number was there, and nobody lost their life except the bad guy.
And did you ever remember seeing this kid or this guy?
No.
No, just no.
No, I'm curious now to get facts and who he was and all of that, because anything that I can learn and take forward will help me. I guess it's like on-the-job training. So I'm curious from that standpoint, but otherwise I don't know anything about his real past history, why we were the target. I've talked to the FBI and Michigan State Police, and they're interviewing everybody and trying to put together I guess, who and what and all of that. So they'll have a better picture of that once they get all of their questions asked and all of their information, and so they'll have a better picture. All I can do is, talk to people that were around me and say, what did you see, and stuff like that. But we just don't know his motivation, and at this point I don't.
Yeah, pretty much all I got. So
well, I got a question.
Yeah.
What's your relationship with the guy who ended up killing the shooter? Do you know him well, or?
We're team members. I am a team lead. He's a team lead, and then we have one more team lead. So on my month, I'm team lead, which just we kind of give each person their responsibility that day. So we have posts, and we, one is supposed to patrol outside, and we have them at doors. We typically lock down all doors but 2, and then we post people there so that if somebody questionable comes in, we can radio, and then we're more prepared for it.
Have you talked to him since it happened?
Yes, I've talked to him.
What have those conversations been like? Just kind of going through what you all experienced together in a way, and what is it?
And I just want to make sure he's okay. He did a job that nobody wants to do, and so my concern is that he's okay, because I'm okay. I'm just physically impaired for a little while. I got a new best friend, so we'll be best friends for a while, and but other than that, I'm okay. And I get to spend a whole lot of time with my wife now, so.
And she was there too at church?
She was at church, yeah. We were all in a row together.
How many of you were there? Your grandkids and your...
Yes, and I was holding one, she was holding one of the older. My 2 daughters were next to her holding the 9 and 18-month-old.
Wow.
And as soon as my 2 sons-in-law were in the back room where the little babies eventually go, but we took them up to see this program because it was very kid-oriented. And so we were in the row, all of them were next to me, and so as soon as I heard that, I passed off my grandson and to my wife, and I ran out towards the commotion.
And I guess I keep having questions.
Sure.
One more last question. So it sounds like you mentioned the shooter was on the ground. I don't know if he was not mobile because he'd been hit by a car, but I mean, how much did that help too, that the other hit him with a car?
Yes, that had to have helped, and that's why God orchestrated all this that put him out of commission or lessened his ability. All I knew is when I got into that area, he was sitting on the ground with a rifle, and he was facing away from me, so he turned to make a sweep of the glass with his gun and just, held the trigger and shot through, and so all the glass is, taken out by his rifle.
So he wasn't even looking at you, he just turned the rifle behind his back and sprayed bullets?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know if he knew what his target was at that time, other than he had to do damage is the only thing I could inflict as much damage as he could while he had the ability.
And I don't know if anyone else was around you at the time. How miraculous was it that just a single bullet struck your leg? I don't know if there were people around you.
It's a miracle that I'm the only one that took anything with. I don't know what the total number is, but there has to be a lot of shots fired from what I heard. So I don't know what the total number is, but of all that, and the one that hit anybody was just the one I took.
So he was literally just held it over his shoulder?
I don't remember exactly.
But he wasn't looking, he just was spraying.
He wasn't looking, he just moved his body with the gun and fired behind him.
Wow.
And swung from his left, because that's how he hit me instead of the other member, because he would have been to my right.
What's been going through your head these last few days?
Just trying to process the events that happened here Sunday. Piecing together information that is still coming in as I talk to other safety team members, other people from the church to put together how the events unfolded and who was where and how God put us in that precise place at the right time to help us.
Because this could have been such a tragedy. We talked about that. Talk about that timing. I mean, the day started, it was normal, you're having service. Take me, if you don't mind, just the beginning. I don't want to get too much into the details, but just talk about that timing of where you were and how everything kind of just unfolded.
So this past week we had VBS with over 80 kids, I believe, that learned about God. And on every Sunday after VBS, the sanctuary stays decorated in the theme of whatever the VBS was this year. And the kids get to perform the songs they learned, and the congregation, and we end up, it's a special day. It's with people who aren't normally here. Their kids came to the VBS, so they're there with their kids. There was people here that weren't normally in our building. And the kids got through all their program, and were just leaving the stage to go sit with their parents, to participate in the service of Pastor Kelly. And that's when things started happening. I heard a noise that, initial thought, I thought it was a mechanical issue in the building. That was a very quick thought, because as I was thinking that, I saw movement, turned around the cry room with his all open glass windows behind me. I see people panicking and running. I asked what was that noise. I thought maybe it was something in that room that I was standing in front of. And the young lady said, AR-15. That's all she said. And I said, where? She pointed, and I went that direction. And from there, I went out and tried to evaluate the situation, where things were, what was happening. I could see the commotion out the front doors. You know, there shouldn't be a pickup truck on the front lawn. Why is there a guy laying here? Why is the truck smoking? And I went out the door, evaluated the situation, realized what was happening, recognized the man who the pickup belonged to out in the front lawn. So I knew it was his truck. That brings pieces together. Focus on the man on the ground and realize that there's bad intentions that's going on. Retreated a bit because it looked like he was starting to focus my way or something like that. There was gunfire away from me. I learned now that he was engaging another safety team member to the west of where we were in front of the building. And that member was engaging with him. And as I retreated into the lobby, another safety team member who was in the service with his family and his grandkids came out into the lobby, running to the sound of gunfire. And he and I kind of crossed paths. I've seen the video. He was evaluating the situation. I could see in his mind he was trying to figure out what was going on. And the man outside turned and fired through the front glass into our lobby. God's hands protected me from what I've seen, the evidence through the tablecloths and the tables and the window and the marks on the walls and down the hallways. I don't know how I didn't get hit. Ron was injured in the leg. Evidently, as the man came up, went down, checked to see where he was, and then focused back on the bad guy. And he couldn't move, his leg was broken, but he was focused on the bad guy. And then I came back around. As I'm watching, I could see the man go down, but still had his weapons, and I engaged him. And then went outside. I was comfortable enough to go out and remove his long rifle, and then evaluate some more that he had more weapons, and I was able to clear them from him. Our team member from the west side that had been engaging him came down with me. We covered the man. He was still moving around. We covered him. A third member came out, and instantly, it seemed like instantly, law enforcement was standing in front of us. But evidently, as the man showed up to the property, and he engaged with the man in the pickup out in the parking lot, nothing violent. And another parishioner was showing up late, could see him getting his weapons out. So there was already 2 calls to 911. Because I could have sworn that law enforcement, that Wayne PD, God bless him, was, I thought they were in the parking lot on the other side of the building. And in the security videos, the 2 of them come running around that building, just amazing. And our one security member, he was holding up his security badge so they knew who we were.
Yeah.
And they didn't even say a word to us. They knew who we were, and they ran right past us to start cuffing this man. And that's when we stood down to let them start handling the scene there. And just a swarm, law enforcement from this whole area was here. And then we started checking on other people. They came in, cleared the building. I was trying to figure out where the people in the sanctuary went, where my immediate family went. And we, processed a little bit, talked with the law enforcement, and then we just kind of stood down, let them take control of the situation. We gave them our weapons, so we were safe to them, and we were able to go see our families. It was, my wife tells me it was 15, 20 minutes before she saw me, that she didn't know. She knew I went. She didn't know what had happened.
And let's talk about that. In that video, everyone was running away, but you guys ran towards that gunfire. A lot of times we don't know what we would do in that situation. What made you say, okay, I'm going?
So I've said this previously, and that's a question. It's a question. As God has had us preparing 10 years for this, and training and working with other godly men to give us the skills to protect our family, that question runs through your mind. And that was one of the things that I remember thinking, is that I've always wondered, when I hear that sound, will I run to it or will I run from it? Even though I had this training, will I? And I don't, I asked and I was out the door. I answered my question Sunday. God put me right there, covered me, that I'm able to be here. It's amazing that nobody else was killed, and that we were blessed that he didn't have more. It wasn't a 2 people that were on both sides of the building or something. Everyone evacuated. They evacuated the people from the sound. They ran from the sound.
And were you the one to shoot him, or was it were you the one that shot the gunman? Or
initially,
yeah, okay.
I thought so. I believe that it was between myself and the man from the west that it was engaging him.
But
I believe the man from our team member from the west, I do believe that he might have got him, because that would, in my mind now, after he had shot at us through the front windows, and I saw him lay back down. I'm thinking now that maybe he took a round from
one of them. Yeah, I mean, it's just so much going on.
It was so noisy, you know. I can't remember any sounds. I do remember him shooting.
Yeah.
I remember the initial sound I heard. I remember seeing him shooting to the west along the front of the building. I don't remember the sound of my shots.
Yeah. But is that hard to process? You know, they always say, like, the cost of saving others' lives, maybe taking one. You know, is that hard to process at all?
It is, and I don't know whether I've processed it yet. There has been a moment or two where somebody has said something, and now to find out that he had, his mother had some ties here. His mother was baptized here, from what I understand, last fall. And to think, okay, well, wait a second, that guy's got a mom. I was told his father was, somebody talked to his father in the street after the incident. You know, no, he was a kid. He was, you know, I got kids. He was somebody's kid. So I've processed, you know, it hasn't taken me down, but I know that there, you know.
Yeah. You just wish you could have helped him in a way, you know, and
he had counseled with people in our church, with Pastor Kelly, and
but you did what
you know,
God called you to do.
There wasn't any indication that this would happen, as far as we know.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
It's, I'm sure down the road there will be the Lord will help me reconcile that, however that comes forward.
You know what? God called you to be in that place and save those people. And we were also talking about how it was ordinary people. I know it's volunteers. I know you have training, but everyone that played a role in this, ordinary people. You have to be your own, what did you say, your own first responder?
You have to be your own first responder. Yeah. God bless the law enforcement and the fire department and the EMTs and all of the people that we normally rely on. But if something bad happens to you, you're the first one there when it happens bad. You know, whether it's somebody trying to do you harm or somebody you're with gets injured. It's going to take time, depending on where you are, for your help to come. You may need to know how to at least start to solve this problem. Whether it be defending yourself or, you know, stopping some bleeding or how to get yourself out of a bad situation. You need to take the time and learn some skills to, you know, evaluate what is a threat, what is possible that could harm you in the area wherever you are and what you do, your daily routine, and know how to take care of yourself if something bad was to happen. And it's not hard to do. It's simple. Not everybody needs to know how to do complex medical things, but until first aid gets there. If you're 50 miles from first aid, you better know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you're in an urban setting, you know people are going to be close to you. You have a pretty good chance of.
It's just sad you have to even think about it, but
right.
What is, kind of last thing here, to sum up all this, I know you're processing it still, and I think so many others are. What is the message you want people to take from this, from the actions that you and your team took? What do you want people to take away from this?
Trust God, first of all, but then be prepared. Be prepared. Know that God will protect you. God will give you the skills to take care of yourself. You can learn to take care of yourself. Like I said, over a decade ago, we had two men present the idea of a safety team at this church. And for 10 years, we've been building and building and building And originally it was a security team. And as we brought our level of security up to where we were confident that we could handle some sort of situation, we rolled it into a safety team. Because it's a big building, it's an old building, there's fires, there's tornadoes, there's mechanical problems. You need to know how to process that. So we have procedures to get the kids reunited with their parents and stuff. But plan. Know how to protect yourself. There are many organizations that we have had the privilege of training with, godly men, godly women, that will share with you how to take care of yourself. And
that's key.
And just look out for your families. This is a massive family. These people are my family. They're not blood, but I've seen kids that were this little that I'm going to their graduation parties now. They're my kids, they're my family. That whole field of people standing out there Sunday, I told the law enforcement when they asked me, who's your family out there? I says, starts over there at the fence, it goes all the way over there by that dumpster. That's my people.
And you help protect them.
That's why I do what I do.
Yeah. I think that sums it up really well. Is there anything else that you want to add? I appreciate you again talking to us. I know sometimes it helps to talk about it, but I don't ever want, sometimes it's hard to relive it sometimes and brings up emotions.
I just hope, and the reason I'm talking and help to share this is that this stuff happens. We prayed for many years in all of our safety meetings that all of our training and all of our time spent together would be good fellowship that we got to look back on years from now, and none of it ever came about. That didn't happen, but God put us in place to where it needed to be. So this is something that may happen in churches and other organizations and businesses, and you have to have a plan for this kind of stuff and take the time to put it in. It's a fallen world that we live in now, and you need to be able to protect yourselves and just trust in God but be prepared.
He was watching.
God will prepare you to take care of yourself.
That's true. Well, thank you again.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.